Hello, amigos. So this week I learned about intersectional observers.
Observers, observers.
Now, in functional programming, it's my guess that the names are actually more complicated than the concept or the idea they represent. And I think that's partly because it's too technical a name in functional programming. Generally, the name nomenclature is very technical. Uh, what is intersectional observers? Basically, it's a ability given by DOM or JavaScript to us as a developer to know exactly when my element, a div, an image, or anything is coming into the viewport or in within any other element onto the screen. Uh, that's pretty much what it is. So you get a call back, hey, your element is about to enter or has already come 50% on the screen. We can configure that thing. You get a call back, you get some data, some data state with it, and you do whatever you want to do with that. For example, you could dynamically load images right at that moment when the user is actually looking at the image and not preload all those images, right? Or do some CSS magic. So if you ask me, as a coming from C sharp slash .NET world, I would have named it pretty different. I would have said element appearing on screen. It's rather than intersectional observer. So, but that's just me. Let's see some code in action because that's what really matters. So to see an example of it, I have this page. It has a giant div with a blue background, and then I have some images, as you can see. Just image tags. We will be writing code in a minute, but trust me, it's dummy. So, but the important thing is happening on the right side. See what is happening if I go down, 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 down. So the image is appearing, but nothing. The moment I cross 50%, I get an entry. What all do I have over here? I have the bounding light rectangle for my image. Uh, Apparently, before intersectional observer were implemented fully, one way to figure out whether your element is appearing on the screen is or not is to actually measure the rectangle, and then you get the heights and widths with respect to the viewport, and then you do your magic. A pretty complicated process. I have never done that, but the more I read, the more I realize that it used to be a pain in the so not anymore because of intersectional observers. But anyway, that is what it is. Intersection ratio is how much the image, because I can specify in an intersectional observer how much image should appear, how much percentage of my element should appear before you give me a call back, before the event is raised. And that's this ratio. I have set it to be 50%, and that's what this number is. Then we have is intersecting, so that means has that ratio already crossed and the element is on the screen as I want it to be, true or false, of course, and is visible if the element is visible or not. And that's the image I have named. Important thing is look what happens if I go back. I get another entry for the same image, but this time is intersecting is false. So that's the trigger, and then we can do our magic. Similarly for other images, nothing. They are pretty similar. And then when they go out, we get a trigger back. So let's write some code. So what I have done is to create an index.html file. It's a plain HTML file without any relation to the project or to any other file. It's simply an HTML file. Some style over here, and the big div, the blue background, and then I have a couple of images. Nothing major about here. I have saved it. If I refresh it, as you can see, this is what I get. No intersection or no events are being fired as of now. That is what we're gonna that's what we're gonna write. So how do I do that? I can say, let me create a config object. It would have properties like root is null. Over here, we need to basically specify the parent or any other bigger element into which our element is going to appear or is intersecting. Root null means that go and the root has to be in the document object, the parent one. In this case, if we specify null. So root margin is, of course, the margin around our element like this, uh, and of course what the threshold is. So threshold is, let's say, 0.5. It's from 0 to 1. Okay, now that's my configuration. Voila, voila, voila. Now let's go ahead and create an intersectional observer object. The way to do that is to say new intersectional observer. Pretty straightforward. And then we say what is the configuration you want and what is the function you want me to call once your observation starts. So let's go ahead and define our callback. Give me all the entries that are happening and the observer object, of course. And what am I going to do? Nothing much. I will simply log it. Entries is an array, so it has to be DC, what is the word? Spreaderized. Another term in JavaScript world. You need to spread it. Okie dokie. So that's my observer. Now, one observer can watch a lot of different elements. It can be, but it's basically one to many ratio. So for my images, I can use the same observer for 3 images also. It's a pretty powerful trick. If you see, if you have similar elements on your web page and you would like to somehow use the same configuration and manipulate them, then that's the use case for it. So let me go ahead. I will pick up all my images. So get image by ID 123, and then I can say, hey, Mr. Observer dot observe, please observe one. Similarly, I can simply say paste 1, 2, and 3. That's it. That's all I need to do. And of course, I'm simply console.logging it, but you can completely change your element. You can, the world is your oyster. I thought it was a Greek saying. I'm not sure. The world is your oyster, and you can eat it too. Ah, I got an error. Callback is not defined. Why is callback not defined? TypeScript is needed. So if I do this, will it work? Yes, the first time it always fires. I can clean it up, and there it goes. But one problem over here is that if you see that when the images move away from the viewport, I get another event. Maybe that's not needed. For example, a case, and we will do that in a minute, that when the when the website loads, you are not loading all the images in that web page. It should appear automatically. You'll get that images at the moment the user actually wants them. So the trick over there is to put some kind of a low quality blur image or a placeholder, uh, and then when it appears, that's you replace it. But in this case, you don't want to observe it after the user, when the image leaves the viewport, because you've already downloaded it, right? So why listen to something which is not important? To do that, to handle that kind of use case, is to say, observer, just disconnect me from this world because I'm a mistake. So if you like the video, if you like my work, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Please put in a comment, share with your friends, and I will see you in part 2 of this session.